record it again. Since I didn't save, we're going to have to rebuild this rig real quick. But we're going to go through this real quick, and I'll try to move fast. I'm going to keep it simpler. So let's go back. Gears on systems, go to bones, and I'm going to start where I think basically the middle end effector is going to be, like the main controller point will be, and I'll just drag a bone here. I'm going to keep it, like I said, a regular forward kinematic system, and then I can just kind of control that as I want to. It'll be a little bit easier. I could probably do some IK, but since it is a tail like a squirrel, it will have a lot of degrees of motion. So let's go ahead and just let that happen. Let's see. Go in here. I'm going to freeze the body so I can't select it. And then I'm going to create a new bone. Just click. And this will be the actual main joint. And then I'll create another bone. And I think I did here, I just kind of did a, wrong button. I started off with just basically, I set it up down here because I want that to be the base, because that'll give us a chance to put weight on that part of the body. And now what we got to do is just link it all up. I'm probably just going to delete this bone and make this the actual center mass. And that was the term I was trying to think of last week. Center of mass. That's where all the animations come from. Like in a character, that's your hips. Like when you're fighting, boxing, playing sports, you watch the hips. That's the center of mass. That's where all the animation starts. Before I start linking everything up, just so you can see it, in the animation tools, there's this bone tools, which allows us to edit the bones so we can kind of get a little bit more of a structure in here if we want. If I go to bone edit mode, I can grab bones and actually just adjust the angles of their angles that they have in the actual chain. I can turn that off, and now I can probably just go ahead and start linking things up. I'm going to use a regular link here. So I'm going to grab that and link that to this bone. I'm going to link this bottom joint to this joint. So this controls everything. See? And now because it's forward kinematics, I hit Shift G to get rid of this. Let's go ahead and close you. Now I'll be animating the bones with just the rotate tool. But because of that, I can actually get myself, I can actually have a lot more control. It's just going to be a little bit slower in animation. But again, since I'm referring to the concept of a squirrel tail, something that has a lot of articulation, this probably will actually work better than the spline IK I was trying to force on you guys last class. So, Shift G. Oh, yeah. We're going to do some controllers now. So I'm going to create a new layer. Call those controllers. And like I said, at least in 3ds Max, you don't animate the bones. Maya may allow you to animate the bones, but I still I suggest to avoid it. But what I'm going to do here is create some basic controllers to control the entire object. And this is just going to be a spline-based thing. So I'll start off with a circle. And I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit more of a three-dimensional controller. I'm going to right-click, convert to editable spline. Go to my element, hold shift and rotate. I'm going to do that. Make sure angle snap is on so I get 5 degrees of rotation. And that goes 9 degrees. I'm looking down here for that degree, that change. And now I'm going to actually rotate what looks like in the X. So I'm going to look there. All right. Now get out of that by hitting 3 on my keyboard. And there's our base controller concept. From there, I'm going to duplicate it by holding shift. And just placing that here. And now that's going to be a copy. So I'm going to call this CTL for controller. I'm going to say main, because this is where all the controls are going to go into. Hit OK. Now that I have that one named, I'm just going to duplicate it off of this one. I can still do some basic controls here and kind of put some things across here to do some basic animation controls for the tail. And so I'll just go ahead and put those at key points. It's a copy. So let's go tail 1. Actually, I'm going to say tail 00, programming speak. Hold shift. And I'm going to say that's 01, so I'll just make a copy. And make a copy. And we'll just go ahead and put it on this last one. Make a copy. Now, what I can do is actually add up some other rigs here to control things in bigger, broader sections. So I can actually have this control, this one, and they'll still work independently. And then this one can control this one and this one. And if I want even a third controller to control the entire thing, I can put a bigger or another controller at this point. I'm going to leave it alone at this point with this configuration in mind, but I probably won't go forth it. Actually, yeah, let's do this. We'll make it simpler. I don't need to make it too complex. Whoops, put it there. Now with the main controller here, let's go ahead and do one for the top of the head. So let's go head, top, and then I'll do one for the base feet. And this one right here, we can use for the actual bounce of the guy, even though we'll do a lot of animation with this main controller here. Head, bottom. All right, so let's go ahead and just kind of link things up. Hit Shift G to hide the geometry. I'm probably going to, since this one's controlled here, I think it's this bone, I want to go ahead and link. Select and link here. Select and link here. Select and link here. Select and link here. Say what? It's going to go to the circles. It's going bone to object. So yeah, not sub-object. That's a good question. And then I'm going to change these colors here so these can actually select these, and let's select these as well. We'll make this, let's make these blue. I'm going to deselect and then make these purple-ish. What I'm doing is just kind of getting color gradation so you can kind of get an idea of the distance away from a main bone. Leave that one there. So take that one there, and then take these and make that one that. And then this one we'll make it dark. So I can kind of get an idea. It helps me stand out from the geometry a little bit better. Make this one, I like to make this one gold. Or actually brighter gold. Like if I want to make a bright yellow, I can go here, click on that, add custom color, make it as bright as I need it to be, and hit OK. And then this will be the head, so I'll make this one deep red, and I'll make this one a little bit brighter. And it just allows me to kind of get a visualization of how things are moving across the structure. Now, right now, we've got it to where this one moves his bone. I broke it. I did break it. I broke it all. That's great. So I got to hold on a second. So OBS doesn't let me pause, so I got to rebuild this structure real quick. There we go. So I'm going to rebuild my screw up. What I did when I did a break is I broke the links on the actual bones when I linked them to the structure, so I apologize for that. Fine. Doesn't have to be accepted. You don't have to pass. All you got to do is do the work. You'll pass just fine. What's wrong with you? Everyone. All right, so let's go back into this, and what I need to do is probably more of a position link, and that'll be a little bit cleaner. So let's go ahead, or position constraint. We'll do a link. All right, cool. Shift S to bring my splines back. All right, so let's go back in here and do not a link. We'll do a constraint. So go to constraints. I'm going to pop this menu out, and then I'm going to do position constraint. Come on, mouse. Position constraint. Position constraint. Whoop. And see how that snapped? It was a little off, and then it snapped the actual center of the bone to the center of the actual object. And that's fine, because I haven't done any skinning yet, so that's going to be fine. And that should now work everything. Oh my. I failed again. I'm going to be right back after the studio announcement.